The first thing I ever made out of wood was this little guy. I'm not quite sure, but I think he's supposed to be a Lego man. And since I made him, I've gained some knowledge, some skills, and some new tools. So I'm gonna try to make a new one. Alright, I'm in the workshop. I don't really have a plan, but I think the easiest way to go is just to start on the bottom and then work our way up. And I don't think it's very entertaining to just watch me cut up a lot of wood. So we're gonna make an insane transition. Wow, that transition was truly insane. So the pieces are cut out, and the next step is gluing them together and then start working on the hips.
When I say that I don't have a plan, it's not quite true. When making a project like this, which is somewhat complex, or when I make projects that need to be very precise, I often make a 3D drawing of the thing first. And here you can see the 3D model of this entire project. I made it just by finding some blueprints of a Lego man on the internet and then drawing it on the computer. I sadly didn't do a screen recording, but I did try to animate it into doing some motion, but it just turned out kinda cursed. Like, in this animation I was trying to make the upper body go off the legs in order to show the legs, but I got no clue why the hand is falling out. And I don't know what I was trying to achieve with this animation, but it definitely wasn't this monstrosity. So instead I gave him a cute little helmet. I probably could make it go off his head instead of penetrating his body, but at this point I couldn't even be bothered anymore. Okay, I kinda went off topic. There are several reasons why I make these 3D models on the computer. One of them being that it's almost impossible to find one picture or blueprint that includes all the measurements and dimensions that you need, so you kinda need to make your own anyway. And when making the blueprints in a 3D program, you can easily 3D print the models in the size you need. Like in this Lego man, the scale is 1:8 compared to a real Lego man. And I actually find it much easier to use a real model as a blueprint than using an actual blueprint. Which is also why you see these big Lego legs laying around in the video, and you probably also saw them in the thumbnail.
Okay, the legs are done. I made some mistakes up here. I probably shouldn't have used the most aggressive router that I have, but you live and you learn. So now I just need to make the crotch area and the hips and these things.
I started off with making the crotch, which was actually very simple. It's just taking a piece of wood with the right width and then making a hole in the middle. And then cutting it out on, I think it's called a scroll saw. I just recently got it. It's one of the most fun tools that I have because it doesn't really feel dangerous and it's very easy to use. And with the crotch done, I was ready to start with this middle part. It seems very easy, but it has like this bow above the leg, which makes it a bit more difficult. So I sanded the edges and gave the router some much needed redemption in order to make a hole in the middle of the hips that the Lego man's crotch will fit perfectly into. I'm actually very proud of this idea. Instead of making the bow go all the way through the hips, which would be very hard to do, I just took the router and removed all this material, because I can then come in with the knife and just make a bow in like the outer centimeter, which is much easier to do, and when the piece is finished, unless you take the legs off, you won't be able to tell. Now I needed to make the inner cylinder that holds the Lego man's legs in place. I guess that the closest things we humans have to this is like the hip socket. So I quickly make the Lego man's hip sockets on the lathe and then continued on the next part. And this particular part is really not something I'm proud of. Not because I'm not proud of the result, but I'm really not proud of the way I made it. I don't know much about you guys, so I don't know whether you also build things out of wood. If you do, I'm sure you're much wiser than me and you will be alright. But if you haven't started yet and are thinking of starting doing things out of wood, I can't stress enough how I do not want you to do things the same way as I do it. I'm kinda lazy sometimes and just take the easy route, even though they may be a recipe for disaster. Especially here. If you have to make a cut like this, you shouldn't ever have your hand this close to the blade. It will pull the piece of wood into the blade and can easily take your fingers with it. And especially on cuts like this, I'm cringing watching this because it's also at an angle. It really wants to spin into the blade. I just have to hold it back, which is a terrible idea. And these cuts are at a 45-degree angle. I don't know if you can tell that I'm cringing watching this. Please don't do things like this. It's a terrible idea. Find something to keep it in place and have your hands away from the blade. Okay, all the pieces are finished. The legs are done. This part is done. The crotch is finished. This inner part is done. And I've made these two pieces. So I just need to assemble everything and it'll be all done. And as you know, YouTubers who beg for likes, comments and a subscribe in the start of a video are mostly terrible individuals. But you have now watched most of this video and I want to say thank you for watching along. And since you have made it this far, you have even fallen asleep or you must somewhat enjoy the content. So if you want to help me, I would really appreciate a like and perhaps a subscribe. And please comment if you have any feedback or thoughts you want to share. Okay, I just need the assembly and it's finished. I'm very happy with this. I'm gonna make some glamour shots and perhaps a stop motion to show you the legs in all of its glory.